I think cloud. When you talk about cloud computing being delivered by telcos, what happens from an IT organization is traditionally telcos have had a lot of engineering skills. They're very good at building things and operating things from a network perspective. What's happened now is telcos are getting into higher level value-added services. Now, cloud computing is one example of that, where they're providing outsourced services both from an infrastructure perspective as well as an application perspective on a utility model, i.e. in a pay-per-use, who will track your usage, will provide the billing platforms, and we'll provide you a portal for you to manage those consumption of those services. So all of a sudden what's happened is telcos need a lot more people with IT skills, and not only in being able to rapidly construct these services to be delivered to the customer from a product development perspective, but also to manage that, in terms of service levels, in terms of data security, in terms of recovery, all the standard ITIL, processes now need to be embedded into telcos. So that's a significant paradigm shift for most telcos, because if they come from a very much an engineering network-based background, moving into more customer-oriented cloud computing concept is a significant cultural shift, significant capability shift, and it's also a significant operating model change, in terms of how they interact with the customer, how is the sales process work, how is the delivery mechanism works, how is it provisioned. See, today, telcos are very good at provisioning networks, right? But their internal IT organizations are not very good at actually being able to emulate a network provisioning process. You need to take the best of both worlds. You take the best provisioning process from the network world, you take the skill sets and the capability and the governance from ITIL, from the IT world, you merge that together, you have a great success story from a telco to serve the cloud computing. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons. First, reason number one is telcos already carry the most sensitive data and information on their networks, and they understand the burden and the control that regulators place on data traffic and what happens with that particular data and what interaction needs to happen with the data. So telcos are already in that space, and they have the right frameworks in place and the right constructs in place to be able to handle that. Cloud, just adds one layer on top of that to be able to do that. So telcos are used to delivering on service levels. They're used to ensuring security of their networks, because as you can imagine, any transgression of their networks or a breach of security on their network has significant commercial as well as reputational impact. So telcos invest a lot in terms of ensuring the security of the traffic. So cloud provides just an augment or additional layer of service. So telcos are actually best placed to be able to be the cloud computing providers. You think about, you are entrusting, if you're a large enterprise or a consumer, you've been entrusting your data, personal information and corporate information and other sensitive information to the telcos for years. Talk about voice or data, years. So, you've been trusting that. Big trust is important in cloud computing. So the only people who you can trust in cloud computing space are the telcos. Now, there's a lot of large content providers who are entering the cloud computing space. The question I would ask, the enterprise CIOs and the consumers is, how long have you trusted them with your information, and are you sure there's been no privacy breach? Now, you just have to pick up the paper today, and even yesterday's Wall Street Journal, and look at the bottom section. One of the high-known brand names was quoted as breaching privacy, data privacy. Telcos take that to their heart because they've been carrying personal information and commercial information for a very long time. They've got the process in place. They work with the regulators. They understand that. So to answer your question, definitely yes. Telcos, it's about the culture change. It's about the skill set change, because cloud really sits in the IT domain. It's all about infrastructure. Delivering computing cycles, delivering storage. It's about delivering platforms. Like if you wanted a database, you really wanted an application testing development environment. It is about delivering software, as a service, and even taking it a bit further, business as a service, where you're now starting to sort of come into the space of business process outsourcing. So you have this paradigm that really sits and has been mature in the IT world. So you're now going to get that into the telco world, where traditionally they've all been network engineers. They've all been good at building networks. So you've got this paradigm shift happening. So this transfusion of skills, the aggregation of skills, the culture change of being, how are we more customer oriented? How can we interact with the customer? It's not about the nuts and bolts anymore. It's not about black and white. It's not about whether this box can do, language X or whatever. It is about services. How do we deliver the service? How do we interact with customers? When you think that requires a lot of investment, and not just in dollar terms, but in terms of time and effort from the management perspective, to ensure that you're bringing a culture of amalgamation between the network skill set, the IT skill set, and driving it more towards an IT services organization, not in the traditional sense. It's not about outsourcing IT, but it's about ensuring those processes are actually embedded to deliver cloud services by a telco.